Before any of this starts, I didn't have anything for background footage, so I hope you enjoy my Halo gameplay. Well, let me give you some background to this video. You see, I've had some personal stuff going on, including having the Carlsberg cough, and I've been trying to post videos for the past week or so, but nothing's really worked out the way I wanted it to. So here I am at my fourth attempt to post. I came up with this idea after watching Xander Hall's video on his experience with the alt-right pipeline, so I thought I'd explain how I saved me and one of my pals from falling down too far. Anyway, I guess it's time to get into the timeline of my political views. For as long as I can really remember, I was told to be nice to everybody and to respect everyone regardless of anything. My parents were quite left-leaning, and so whenever I heard anything homophobic or sexist during my time at primary school, I'd always call it out, which caused me to be bullied a huge amount. But I had a few friends who had similar beliefs. The main one we'll focus on in this video was my closest friend at the time. For privacy reasons, I'm obviously going to use a nickname, that being the prodigal son. You see, the prodigal son and I had very similar beliefs until around primary 7, when the topic of the politics first came up. With it being an election year in the US, we both said we'd prefer Hillary Clinton to be elected, and that was that. That was all politics were to us. Just deciding arbitrarily who we wanted to be voted in. But you see, at this point, I discovered a YouTuber who I believe, although he's not very right-leaning at all, it can set people onto the alt-right pipeline by accident. It would be Memulous. You might think he's just a normal commentary YouTuber who makes fun of, crap YouTubers and rapping children. But a couple of years ago, he posted a few videos on BuzzFeed feminists, which I thought were quite funny at the time. I assumed that was that, and I continued on my day until I started getting recommended other videos on BuzzFeed feminists. They, however, were by another YouTuber, this time Pyrocynical, whom I would later subscribe to and continue to binge all his content. By this point, I'd made up my mind that feminists were bad, and to reassure this, I had another YouTuber recommended to me who made even more extreme and factually incorrect videos. This time, it was Chubbs. You see, Chubbs was a special case, because I didn't even really like his content. I thought he was wrong on a lot of topics. I thought he was a bully. I didn't even think he was that funny, but I kept watching his content. At the same time, I was slowly getting bullied less for things like not having massive freakouts in games of Tick and making fun of feminists. You see, I never once thought to question whether or not I was correct or whether feminists were correct. I just went along with the first thing I'd seen. If the first thing I'd seen had been, I don't know, H-Bomber guy, I'd probably have never ever had that experience. And the fact that I talked with a lot of the fairly popular kids in my class about it and continued on and reaffirmed their beliefs, I probably would have helped them if I'd encountered a left-leaning YouTuber first. But, around this time I started talking to the prodigal son about it, and soon he was just like me. But we had a bit of a falling out, and I wasn't really friends with him for a while. Instead, I was friends with a full-on neo-Nazi whose nickname for the purposes of this video will be Adolf. My adventures with Adolf really need their own video, and I don't want to talk about him that much. Instead, I want to mention the last YouTuber I watched before getting off the pipeline early. That YouTuber being No Bullshit. I'm not that smart, but I was smart enough to know that the No and No Bullshit's name was silent. I was an interesting case, because my actual beliefs about equality and human rights hadn't really changed. I just hated people the right had strawmanned it and made me believe were pushing equality too hard. I realised from the beginning that No Bullshit was an absolute bigot, and I didn't like bigots, but I continued to watch some of his content on and off because he also hated the feminists and the SJWs. But at a certain point, I decided it was too much for me and stopped watching this. And this, combined with some of the conversations I had with my brother, made me change my mind on most feminists. Keyword most. I'm looking at you, TERFs. My friendship with Adolf continued until the end of first year at high school, when I got all of my friends to ignore him because he was, a Nazi. However, unlike me, the prodigal son never left the pipeline. Politics didn't really come into the conversation again until about second year, when I sat next to him in science with Adolf and another former friend, who shall be known as Quiet Child, sitting right behind us. One day, walking into school on a Monday morning, I got into the subject of communism when talking to the prodigal son, because on the Saturday before that, my brother had told me about communism and how he was a communist. So the prodigal son and I were making fun of this fact, and I distinctly remember saying the line, "With communism, the rich stay rich, and the poor stay poor." This, of course, was a saying I got from either Chubbs or No Bullshit on one of their many rants about how the greatness of the free market and how the communist, socialist, feminist, SJW, pro-diversity, anti-ableist, cuck soy boys are trying to invade and take our women and destroy America and Western values. Stuff like that. After that conversation, I realised I didn't really know what either capitalism or communism were, and my brother ended up just educating me, I guess, on this subject. And from then on, there was almost never a point where I wasn't arguing against the tag team of Adolf and the prodigal son, who'd recently become friends again. Keep in mind, this started only a few weeks after our first conversation about communism, so my immediate change of heart confused the prodigal son, and one of his main arguments was that, get this, with communism, the rich stay rich, and the poor stay poor. He started using my incorrect argument against me, but I was an idiot, so I couldn't even argue against that. I couldn't argue against that or anything they said because I couldn't really, and really still can't, articulate myself very well. So every response I made to them was taken out of context. I knew they were wrong. I knew in my head why they were wrong, but I couldn't think of the right way to explain why they were wrong. Most of the time, even when I could, it didn't really make a difference to them anyway. Around this time was when the transgender debate began between us, and oh my, it deserves its own video as well. But these guys and the friend group they created was really anti-LGBT, especially trans people. They really, really had a thing against trans people. That was a huge thing we argued about. It continued until the end of second year when, due to some school controversies, the prodigal son left the school, and that was basically it. We occasionally shared some memes or argued over Instagram, but never any solid communication. Skip forward to the death of George Floyd, and due to a mutual friend of ours, I knew the prodigal son had some spicy opinions about protesting and about using racial slurs. And I messaged him on Instagram about it, and with some help from a shit ton of studies and some input from my brother, he conceded defeat and said, yeah, maybe racial slurs are kind of bad. Now is as good as a time as ever to mention that the prodigal son and I used to be Fortnite buddies. We'd play every day after school until we stopped talking. Both of us really enjoyed playing it together, and so one day, about a year and a half ago, I joined a public party he was in with another mutual friend we have, whose name, for the purpose of this, will be Celiac Child, as well as Quiet Child. As none of us were on bad terms at the time, we had fun, won a game, we laughed and we went off. It's a fun little one-off, and why do I tell you this though? Well, if we go back to after George Floyd's death and back into lockdown, I thought, why not do the same? And I jumped into a party. Every day during lockdown I was staying up to about 2 a.m. doing nothing, and I thought, why not at least stay up and talk to people? So we started playing Fortnite again, me, the prodigal son, and Celiac Child. We had a blast on the first night, so we did it again and again every night for the rest of the lockdown. Every night we'd play games, talk about a whole range of subjects, including politics, which when we first talked about it, I was shocked to hear that the prodigal son was socially a leftist, but economically pretty far right still. This made me so happy I couldn't sit still as he explained to me that some of my arguments caused him to doubt some of his, and eventually he transformed into a significantly better person. Now, I can't take too much of the credit, I'm pretty sure most of it should go to BreadTube, but just to know I made even the slightest difference to him made me so happy, and it gave me so much hope that these kinds of people could change. That people on the alt-right pipeline just need the right kind of help. I mean, he was still an anarcho-capitalist for a while, but eventually, I again, with some help from my brother, managed to convince him it was a stupid idea. My brother's sometimes helpful with this stuff, as he's better at speaking than me. He has less of a one-track mind. My problem is I'm easily distracted. I'm not very good at reading, speaking, or explaining things well. But through my frequent debates with people at school, I've been getting better and better, so Hopefully in my responses to videos I'll have well formulated arguments. Anyways, I've been rambling on for a while now, so I think it's time to end this. If you got this far, please like, comment and subscribe. Check out my other channel, which will be linked in the description. Check out my Instagram, which I'm looking to start posting on now that I'm starting to post content on YouTube. And I'll see you in the next one.